And so I think, yeah, from that perspective, think about the seasons of life that you're in the sustainability of it for you. Do some research. And if it feels like the next right step for you, I say 100% go for it. And the beauty in that is there's always going to be corporations looking for a job. There's always going to be people hiring. So if you try it and it doesn't work out for you, then you just go get a job. Like that's the worst thing that could happen is you just go get another job, you know?
Hi, Anna. Welcome to the Teacher Biz podcast. I am so glad to have you here.
Hi, Heather. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat today.
Great. Well, let's start by if you could tell me a little bit about you, maybe what you were doing before you had an online business and what your business looks like.
Yeah, so before I had my online business, I was kind of doing something similar. I was working as an executive assistant at a corporate bank in the US. And I actually really enjoyed my job. I've as weird as it sounds, like when I was little, like I knew that I wanted to be an assistant and work in an office and do that type of job. But once I worked there for maybe a year and a half, and I quickly learned, okay, I have to be in the office by 7 a.m. That means I'm waking up at 5 a.m. every day. I also worked downtown, so I was commuting an hour every day. And I was like, okay, maybe my job, I like this job, but I clearly don't enjoy working in an office. That was pre-pandemic as well. So the possibility of doing anything online or working from home was not really possible. Also, during the time I was long distance with my boyfriend, he's now my husband. He was living here over in Europe. And so we were seeing each other 2 times a year. It was crazy. And so I knew my end game was I want to live in Europe. I want to obviously live with my partner. We want to get married. We want to have a life together. And so I just started doing some kind of research online, joining some random Facebook groups about people who do remote work. And I found this girl who posted about how she's a virtual assistant. And I was like, well, if I'm an executive assistant and she's a virtual assistant, this has got to be similar in some way. And so I just started talking to her. And then that opened up my mind to doing a bunch of research online of researching what a virtual assistant is. I found these courses, I found blogs, I talked to people who were virtual assistants. And so that is kind of what started it for me. I found a course that I liked that kind of taught me the specific skills I would need to be able to do what I was doing in the office, transfer that, to be online, more creative type of skills, also how to run a business. And I did that course for about 6 months before I started getting my first clients. Then I left my job and then moved over here to Europe. And so now I've had this online business now for 3 years. So quite the journey it's been.
That is so exciting. I love that story. You're right. Before the pandemic, this whole working from home thing was a completely different game. Not that many people were doing it. But that's so smart to transfer your assistant skills to the online space. That is such a needed job that so many people don't know about. And I always say to my audience is mostly teachers and they're teaching and then thinking about starting an online business. I always say the worst that can happen is that you cultivate all of these skills and then you use them to work for someone else's business. There's just so much potential there. So can you share with me a little bit about what your business structure looks like now, how the money flows into your business, and just the whole setup that you have going on?
Yeah, so I've gotten I don't know that I want to say lucky, but my business since the beginning has been very successful. I think that is partially because I officially started my business 2 weeks before the pandemic started. And so a lot of my first clients were people who, were like, okay, I'm starting to hear that people are working online now. I feel like that's when things really attention started to gain. And so Yeah, in terms of like my business structure, so like I work with a couple of different what I call like retainer clients monthly that I'm working with every single month. We're on the same package that I'm creating content for. And then I also have like project clients where like depending on what my workload is that month, I will open up space to be like, okay, I could take on 2 more projects or 3 more projects. Also, depending on what my schedule is as well. Like now in the summer, I'm doing more travel, so I won't be taking on as more projects, but at home or in the winter time when I'm just at home, not really a lot's going on, I can open up my calendar and my availability to take on more. So that's kind of how that works in terms of like money flowing in, I guess. So that is all from clients that I'm working with. I don't yet have any kind of like passive courses or anything like that. That's definitely something on the books for me to do later this year.
Absolutely. Well, you also mentioned that you have a podcast yourself. So can you tell us how that relates to your business and maybe in getting those clients?
Yeah, so I just started this podcast 3 months ago. I started it back in March. Also just as a way for me to create additional pieces of content because like I said, I've been in business for 3 years now, showing up mainly on social media and on Instagram. And I just was been like, okay, at the very beginning and towards the middle of it, like Instagram was really fun to play with and come up with new different things. But this year I just got to the point where I was like, okay, I want to get out of my comfort zone a little bit. Like it got too easy to be like creating Instagram content. I was like, I want to try, my clients have podcasts. I'm helping people produce their podcasts and put it out every single week. Why am I not doing this? And so yeah, so I have, I've put out a couple different episodes and that's definitely been a good creative outlet for me. And also, like I said, a way to branch out of my comfort zone a little bit because it's different to be longer form speaking about your business and to be, speaking about your, different topics and things like that versus in, a short Instagram post or even in, a 2-minute Instagram story. So I definitely have enjoyed the beginnings of that.
When you introduced yourself to me, you said that you are a content repurposing specialist. Can you tell us what it means to repurpose content and why someone would want to do that in their business?
Yeah, definitely. So content repurposing, essentially, it's just like taking one piece of content, turning it out into a bunch of different pieces. So for an example of a podcast, you would be taking a podcast episode, transcribing that, putting it and turning it into a blog post, and then also taking the podcast, turning it into an email newsletter that goes to your list, making a couple of different social media posts for it, or uploading the video onto YouTube, making reels. So really just maximizing the effort that you are putting into with the one main piece of content or the one main platform that you're showing up and creating on, maximizing that. So what I like to say, it's working, it's a way to work smarter, not harder, because, we all, a lot of us having started our own businesses is we have a lot of different things that we're passionate about. We have other things going on in our lives that we want to be able to put more attention to. Maybe you don't want to be in an office working, and even just working 9 to 5. Not a lot of people even have that. If you're working in an office, you're typically getting there earlier than 9 and working past 5. And so that was one thing I quickly realized when I started being a virtual assistant, because I didn't start with content repurposing, but what I was doing was creating content. And that's what I found with a lot of my clients. That's what they were like stuck over. They weren't, sometimes they're stuck over different pieces in their business of, oh, okay, like what product should I make next? Or what should be the next move that I do? But day to day, they're stuck on the little thing about, oh my gosh, I should put out an Instagram post today, or I haven't sent an email in 3 weeks. And I'm like, that is like another way I like to think about it is like in the scheme of things in the world, content is like social media content and the content we're putting out, like that should be the smallest of your worries. So like focus on making one thing really, really good and have that piece work its magic from there is kind of how I like to talk about it.
I love that. If I could add my 2 cents into that advice, I would say that email is usually the best place to put your eggs, and I would make that your end game and then repurpose from there. That's a lot of what I did in my business, and that email is just so solid compared to all the other things. Social media can be so fickle. It's a great thing to have, but I wouldn't put all my eggs there for sure. You talked a lot, Anna, about how your business is flexible and you're not stuck in that 9 to 5 grind, which I love. I love that too. Would you share with us how many hours you work per week and kind of the lifestyle that your business allows you to have?
Yeah, definitely. So I would say I do still work about 8 hours a day, but it's not stuck between a very like specific time frame. Like I work I definitely go off of like what I feel like doing, honestly. Like overall, during the week, I've got, different projects, different tasks, different things that I need to do, and kind of can break it down and prioritize it from there. But if I wake up in the morning, I'm not feeling that great, whatever it may be, and I want to lay in bed for an hour, like that's okay. I can do that. Or if it's like 8 o'clock at night and I like have all this inspiration that hits and I do work for 4 hours and it's a whole lot of fun, then I'll do that. So yeah, I definitely kind of, play with it. Definitely like that I can have it be flexible because I do feel like since I don't have so much pressure on myself to be like, okay, I need to do, I'm clocked in from 9 to 5, so I have to be working between that hours. Like, I think back to my times in the office and it's like, okay, even looking around at other people, no one is consistently strictly working during all of those hours. I think it's just not not reasonable these days, so to say. But yeah, and especially with, like I said, so I live over here in Europe now, and part of another big reason as to why I wanted to start my business is because I always knew that I had wanted to live over here for some time. I'm from Kentucky. All of my family lives there. All of my friends live there. And so I had said to my husband, I said, I of course want to live in Europe. That sounds like a fabulous life. But if I do that, I don't want to go get a job over there because I want to be able to come back and see my friends and family whenever I want to. If I am going to be living across the world, I want to have that flexibility to be able to come and go whenever I want to. If there's a wedding happening, a birthday, or if I'm just missing my family, I want to be able to go do that. And so that was another huge thing that I'm like very thankful for, is that is a huge reason for me for having this business and for being flexible, is so that I can go visit my family whenever I want to, but also so, I can travel with my husband and, living in this beautiful continent, so to say, and, get to visit different countries and cities because my husband works in the travel industry. So I get to go on his business trips with him sometimes. And so yeah, definitely for me, flexibility definitely has been key. And because of that, I feel so much more like passionate and like grateful and appreciative when I am doing my work, because I am like so grateful for what I'm doing. I feel like I put so much more of my heart and my soul into, what I'm, doing with my clients, but also when I'm building my own business.
I love that. And what part of Europe are you in? I feel like our listeners will wonder about that.
Oh, yes, I live in Germany.
That's so exciting. And it's great how like you could take this work with you wherever you go, so you don't have to be stuck in that one place. Sometimes people think about us entrepreneurs sitting on a beach with our laptop, and that's generally not the case, but we could pack it up while we travel and bring it wherever we need to go. What would you say to someone who is just thinking about starting an online business and maybe looking for some advice, whether it be that they're thinking about becoming a virtual assistant themselves or some other kind of online business? What would you say to them?
I definitely would say look at the bigger picture of what it means for you, because I know it is kind of trendy, so to say. I see all these girls on TikTok, all these people online talking about wanting to do it. And I'm like such a fan for that. Like, yes, be flexible, be your own boss, 100% a fan for that. But also think about the long-term sustainability for it. Are you truly someone who can be your own boss? Are you okay working alone in your house, or do you need to be in an office working with other people, or even just having, coworkers who you're communicating with online? So I would say, definitely, do your research, think about, putting yourself into these different scenarios to be like, okay, is this something that is still going to be fun for me to do 3 years down the line, 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line? And if not, I think that's okay. If you're in a season of life to where maybe you're, one of my coaches, so she had her virtual assistant business going on while her kids were still at home. I know a lot of people start their business that way because their kids are young. They, you don't want to pay for childcare. I'm at home. I have a couple hours a week. Let me go and do that. And so that's fine. But then once her kids went back to school, she's sitting at home by herself all day. She's like, I want to now go back and be in an office. I don't need to be at home by myself all day. My kids are grown. And so I think, yeah, from that perspective, think about the seasons of life that you're in the sustainability of it for you. Do some research. And if it feels like the next right step for you, I say 100% go for it. And the beauty in that is there's always going to be corporations looking for jobs. There's always going to be people hiring. So if you try it and it doesn't work out for you, then you just go get a job. Like, that's the worst thing that could happen, is you just go get another job,
That is such good advice. And also, since we're talking about virtual assistants, what would you say to an online business owner who's considering bringing a virtual assistant into their business? I know for me, that was such a game changer when I could stop answering all the customer service emails and had someone to help me with some of the little things. But can you talk about what a game changer that could be for a business owner?
Yeah, 100%. And I think first, definitely kind of start to take notes or recognize the things that you're doing that are taking you so much time, whether it is, customer service emails or doing social media posts, whatever that may be, that you're doing, and notice, okay, this is something that I do and I absolutely hate it. I don't like to do it at all. Like, this is the very last thing I do in my day because I save it because I don't want to do it at all. Or this is something that I'm doing. I kind of enjoy doing it, but I don't need to be the person that's doing this. And from there, kind of, take inventory of what those different tasks are and see, okay, is this something that I can outsource to someone? Does this need to be outsourced to multiple people? Because that is a definite tip that I would give, is sometimes it is worth it to have, like a unicorn VA, someone who will do everything under the sun for you. And then other times it's definitely going to be more worth your while to be having someone who is specialized. Like, maybe you need to have a tech virtual assistant who can do, funnels for you and things in your website, any kind of, making course updates, things like that. Or if you need, scheduling done, if you need emails responded to. So that honestly would probably be my main tip, is to, do research on your different tasks and figure out, would it be best for someone to, like, do I want to have someone who can do anything under the sun for me? And if I have something random come up during the day that they've never done before, I want them to just be able to do that. Or do I want to know that someone, like, is in their zone of genius? And I think that's just something that is kind of everyone's to each their own preference, because obviously if you have, two different VAs who are helping you with different things, for one business owner, that could be overwhelming to be like, oh, I have to tell 2 people what to do. Other people might enjoy, oh, I've got 2 people on my team that I can talk to and I can have fun with. So it really just depends on your own preference from there.
I agree with that. And one thing that I found helpful in hiring my VAs, because I do have a few people that are helping me in my business now, is that I did not hire them all at the same time. So if someone was completely up and running and independent from me, besides a few questions here and there, before I brought my second person in. And that was really, really helpful. This has been so helpful, Anna. And thank you so much for being here today. I think our listeners got a lot out of this. So thanks for coming on, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. It was nice to talk to you.